Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Uncanny X-Men 164. This is Dave Cockrum's last issue as he will be replaced by Paul Smith. It is essentially very weird because a artist is being replaced in the middle of a story arc. So, he doesn't even get to finish the arc, which I find weird. Now, I love Paul Smith, so I think it is an upgrade in the art. Most people know how I feel about Cockrum's work. I do find it a little bit dated. He is a very decent um, artist. He's a very decent penciler. It shows in this cover. This cover is actually pretty well. I have a near mint, near perfect um, of this cover, of this issue. Sorry, a near perfect issue. Just absolutely gorgeous. And this cover is actually very well done. Of course, this is how I got into this. That when I was growing up, I never had these back issues. I've gone back and replaced them, but originally I was in high school and I could just buy back issues a little bit at a time. I didn't come from a very wealthy family, so um, I would just, if whenever I had extra money, I would buy an issue or two of X Men. So, all right. Binary Star, Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, Bob Wyachek. Still no Tom Orzechowski. We do not have Glynis Wein as the coloring. Louise Jones is still the editor, and Jim Shooter is going to be editor in chief for a couple more years. And we pick up immediately where we left off, and you can see Lilandra's yacht, and these missiles are coming for it. It actually is a very. I like the fact that this is turned this way. So, and here we have our cast of characters: Cyclops, Wolverine, Carol Danvers, Kitty Pryde, Lilandra, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and Storm. Now, if you're wondering why Carol Danvers is been around, is because Carol Danvers, Chris Claremont was writing Miss Marvel. The title ended up getting canceled, but he's got an affinity for her. So, um, X-Men, we're under attack. As you can see, again, the missiles are coming. Huntmaster, so the Brood are following them. Huntmaster, whatever here. Reporting contact with the alien vessel, Imperial Shi'ar yacht. Velocity, 0.4 light years increasing course. Out of the system at maximum acceleration. And so we're going to get a little bit, saying the X-Men are there. They have fired warning shots here. And it says here that the target has not responded. And of course, they know that soon they'll be able to go to warp speed. And so they're requesting instructions. I don't understand. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the Brood. It's okay if you love them. It's okay if you think they are the greatest characters of all time. We don't have to always agree. I do not like how the Brood, the insectoid, I love their heads. I know that Claremont was going for an aliens vibe. I am just not sold on insects, particular insects that have guns. It looks silly, even for comic books. Chris Claremont is one of the greatest writers of all time. I love him. I love what he has done with X-Men. I love his writing. There's a lot of things that I thoroughly enjoy about Chris Claremont. For every one thing that he does bad, there are 9 things that he does well. So, with that said, the concept of the Brood is okay, but the design of the Brood is not my cup of tea. I do not like smart insects. If you're gonna have a smart insect, have them a little humanoid looking. They can look. I would have loved this face. Put this head in a humanoid type creature. I don't know. So anyway, so they're asking for instructions here. The mother, of course, tells them that the X-Men have escaped. That the starship is to be disabled and all aboard taken alive and unharmed, with one exception. Of course, Wolverine, who has done everything he can to be miserable, because that's why we love him, and he no longer has the Brood egg implanted on him. I have a playlist. That includes everything from Giant Size X-Men #1 all the way to current. But I've also got multiple playlists where I've broken the issues into arcs, like the Dark Phoenix saga, the when they went to the Savage Land, etc., etc. So you can check out all of this any which way you want here. So essentially, they're all to be taken in alive except Wolverine. I love this part here. Any sacrifice to that end is acceptable. Should you fail, Huntsmaster, be certain you yourself are among the slain. In other words, fail me or die. So, again, I don't have a problem with the writing of these stories, even the drawing of the stories. Cockrum kind of grows on you. After Burn, I was like, oh man, I was quite sad because I felt Dave Cockrum was, after John Byrne, it does seem like taking a step back, but he does grow on you, and he's very serviceable. So I don't have a problem with a lot of the drawings per se, just the design of the Brood. I'm gonna try to get off that dead horse because I could spend the entire 30 minutes arguing about why I think the Brood are designed silly. So I already made my point. All right. So here, another Clus Salvo, closer than the last. I think they're trying to tell us something. Any idea what we're up against, Lilandra? Brood fighter craft, Cyclops short range, high velocity vessels, highly maneuverable and heavily armed. And so Cyclops says, can we outrun them? And Lilandra says, so long as we remain sublight, no. And we're still too deep within this star's gravity well to shift into warp space. And Cyclops says, can we fight? And she says the name of this craft, a Zrishar, is a pleasure craft, not a warship. So here you can see everyone's looking outside at the light show here. They keep missing, Carol. They must be very poor shots. Far from it, Colossus, says Carol Danvers. They're shooting wide deliberately to get us to surrender. I wonder why. And Cyclops is like, so do I. The Brood's been handling us with kid gloves ever since they kidnapped us. And Lilandra says, I cannot divert any more power to the shields. I need it for the engines. We have weapons, Cyclops, minimal though they are. Use them and your own mutant powers to keep the Brood at bay. So here comes Colossus, Carol Danvers, and, of course, Wolverine. By this time, I think Claremont is absolutely has a grasp, a very good one. Grasp. Sorry, I said graft. A grasp on Wolverine and the type of character that he is going to be going forward. So Carol says that it's easy consoles. Simply pretend it's a video game, except Wolverine says, yep, trouble is losing this game will cost you a lot more than a quarter. And Colossus says, "There is no other way, Wolverine. We must kill." "It's them or us, Petey," says Wolverine. So, and if ever a race deserved their fate, the Brood's it. And so Wolverine thinks he still hasn't told them. "Maybe I can't save you and the others, pal, though I'd give my soul for the chance, but I can at least avenge you." And Carol says, "Sights locked. Got it." And so she shoots here. So over here, Peter's like, no matter what he does, he can't seem to get him. His thoughts are too slow. And up here, he's going, I know the Brood are evil, but I wish there was some other way. So again, Claremont is putting in that the X-Men are not these barbarians, that it's kill all the time, and it's not the Punisher where it's like kill first, kill second, and kill third. So he is doing his very best to make sure that you as a reader, or we as a reader, understand that the X-Men are pure and good and heroic. And here he's like, "Oh, snap out of it. Your comrades, they depending on you, and you are failing them." So, all right. Now we have Cyclops here. So here, Cyclops says that this it has a ruby quartz, so he can shoot his eye beams and not hurt them. And then he goes back. Wolverine knows something he isn't telling us about the Brood. He's never been shy about speaking his mind before, so it must be as unpleasant as it is important. When we get out of this, if we do, I'll have to make him talk. That should be fun. "Why are we here? What does the Brute want with us?" And you see Cyclops firing his optic blacks. "Here comes some fighter. These seem to be living creatures as the Brute starships. I'll have to be careful so my shots force them to disengage without seriously hurting them." So, and now we have Storm here. Of course, her powers are kind of useless out in outer space. And it says here, "It will require too much concentration for me to manipulate the solar wind. I'm forced to call upon my lightning." And so, "I've sworn never to take a life, yet the Brood are concerned. I am sorely tempted to break that vow. However, while they are consummate evil, their vessels are not. I cannot harm them. I will use the lightning to stun. Blessed goddess, no. The bolts are out of control. The ships, I've killed them." So they explode here. Oh, Storm. So it says here, "All hunters from the whatever ship, ignore our casualties, maintain the attack, concentrate on the engineering section. Their shields are buckling." And Lilandra's like, "We've been hit. Is it serious? The control elements of the warp drives are inoperative. We can't effect repairs from inside the ship. Someone has to go EVA, which is extra vehicular activity." And Nightcrawler says, "I'll do it." And Kitty says, "No, you won't. You're barely able to stand. Besides, what do you do out there? When the sleazoids shoot you, duck." "Kitty, we heard you want what you intend. I won't allow it. It's too dangerous." And she says, "That's crazy, Scott. I'm the only one for whom it isn't dangerous," she says. "If any beams come my way, I'll phase through them as easily as I phase into the pressure suit. And using the suit's video camera and radio, Lilandra can monitor my progress and tell me what to do. I'll be careful, Scott, I promise, and I'll be all right." So off she goes, and this is very similar to the outfit. In fact, this probably is that Lilandra wore in those early issues of the X-Men when she was trying to get to Earth here. So here you see Kitty phase right through. And so the busted module is aft beneath the solar fins. I want to run, but I can't. I'm not using a safety line. One misstep will throw me off into space, and the others won't be able to stop and come back for me. And so now we have Carol, and she's like, "What the?" My vision suddenly went blurry. I saw colors, images I've never dreamed possible. but everything's normal now. Probably stress, a delayed reaction to the treatment I received from the brood, she says. And so here's the brood. I almost went back to the to my little tangent, but I'm gonna skip it and keep going with the story here. Insects with guns and flying spaceships is funny. So they see Kitty Pryde there. Of course, they're like stunned and try to take her in. Of course they do, but she faces right through it here. And so down she goes to try and fix what needs to be fixed here. She was having doubt. She's like, I'm just a kid. And she goes, no, not anymore. I'm an X-Men. I earn my place on the team. And here's where I prove it. So, all right. Here, the brood notices that they still haven't activated the warp drive. So they must have crippled them. And they said, everybody close in. And so Cyclops still firing his optic blast. And Cyclops is like, they're hitting us from all sides, more than we can handle, and our return fire slackering off storms. Are slackering off. Storm, are you okay? And he continues here. They're clobbering us, Ororo. Why aren't you using your lightning against the fighters? She goes, I cannot. My power no longer yield to my will. If I use them, I will kill, and I cannot do that. Oh my God. Okay. We get it, but we're sometimes I feel like we're not only have we done the whole point, but so for you, for Kitty, for anyone, boy does that change in a couple of when the mutant massacre comes. Um so here, let's see. I would imagine this one goes first, and these. Um, so she replaced one of the uh, primary, I would imagine, batteries or things. Then she screams. I said, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Shrapnel from a near miss. Didn't see it coming. Didn't face. My suit automatically sealed itself, so I haven't lost much." And so we'll go here. So it would have been this one. I hate some of these uneven panels because you instinctively want to go here, then here, then here. But we still can because it doesn't really. And so here, Carol's like, another spell of weirdness, worse than before. The sensations aren't unpleasant, just totally strange. The brood subjected me to evolutionary modification. I guess they must have triggered something inside me. But what? She says here. And we continue with Kitty here. I'm bleeding, but I don't think it's serious. Hurts like blazes, though. Inside immediately, your mission's canceled. And she says, no, I'm staying. I'm almost finished, Lilandra. A few more minutes and we'll be safe. And so you can see the brood are firing, but at the same time, here comes Carol. Remember that Miss Marvel has Kree DNA on her as well. She's not just normal human. And here you can see her turning into binary. And so here we go. And she destroys everyone. And so everything's fixed. Throw the switch, Linda. Throw us into warp. Bless you, child. We're on our way. Kitty, are you there? Kitty. Why did they do that without getting Kitty inside? So now we're back on Earth, Professor X's school. And so he is making dinner preparations here. As a young man, Charles Xavier had a dream of an Earth where humanity and mutant kind lived together in peace to fulfill that dream. And to protect the world from the depressions of evil mutants, he formed this school whose students became the Uncanny X-Men, unsung heroes, feared, often hated by the very people they were sworn to save. They became his surrogate children, whom he loved with all his heart, and since their abductions, his nights have become haunted, his hands, he believes, covered with blood. The dream may still be good. I made mention a couple videos ago. I don't know why he was not on the ship. I understand, but they never explained. It was like to wish her off, and they were going to have a dinner, but they left him. So I didn't get it. But here is Colossus's sister. You call me Professor? And he says, dinner's ready, Liana. Great, I'm starved, she says. Of course, it's Ileana's. She's Colossus' sister. Go ahead and check the playlist on issue 160, where she went from a little kid to a teenager. So I've been exploring the house. It's almost exactly as I remember it, though it's a bit spooky with just the two of us here. Moira will be back Monday, says Professor. That's wonderful. I like Dr. McTaggart a lot. I'm sure she'll be pleased to hear that. I like you too, Professor, honest, as she smiles here. So, Ileana says, Professor, sometimes I hear your voice perfectly clearly, but you're nowhere around, and I don't actually hear anything. That is with my ears. The words seem to pop into my head. How is it? And how come before I returned here with you and Dr. Metager, I could only speak Russian? I remember you touching my forehead one night, and I fell asleep. The next morning, when I woke up, I spoke perfect English. And Professor Xavier says, I taught you while you slept. I figured that, but how? And he telepathically, with my thoughts. And she's like, oh. And so this, we're just gonna get that, the mutants like Peter and he says, do you know what I'm thinking? And he says a telepath should never indiscriminately mind scan people, especially those in his care. Your secrets are safe from me, child. Professor, am I a mutant? And he says, perhaps. I'm not sure. She hasn't shown any powers at this moment. I can do neat things too, just like Piotr or Peter. Such as, oh, things. Elena's thoughts are protected by extraordinarily powerful and sophisticated psionic shield. It could be natural, but I doubt it. According to Moira, she was abducted by a demon lord named Belasco and held for 7 years in his mystic domain, the only moments passed here on Earth. Now, in the future, there is a 4-issue series called Magic that'll cover those 7 years. So, I may cover it, I may not. It is written by Chris Claremont. Not sure yet whether or not we will actually get to that, but there will be a 4-issue limited series, like I said, that does cover that. So, um, what she experienced there, for good or ill, no one knows. I ought to investigate, find a way to pierce that barrier. But I no longer care enough to make end the attempt. Let Moira deal with her. All I want is to be left alone. So, all right. And so you can see and it's Kitty. I must be alive. Hurts too much to be anything else. So hard to move. Feel so tired, weak. And then she's like, hello, is there anyone there? Can anyone hear me? And of course, Binary goes, Kitty. Carol, thank heaven. Is that you? Well, of course. You just said Carol. So here we have the first sort of full appearance, because now we can see her uniform. By the way, I love it. If I could become the head at Marvel, um, I would do two things. I would make Monica Rambeau go back to being Captain Marvel, and two, Carol Danvers go into Binary. I think this is so friggin' cool. And so and so you can see that they're cold. So it looks like life support systems are damaged. Is a change permanent? Carol says Cyclops, or asks Cyclops. I hope so, she says. And Kitty's like, she was beautiful. When I first saw her, I thought she was an angel. Um, and Nightcrawler's like, save your strength. Let me complete my examination. It sounds, is that Peter saying that? Yep, I think so. Funny, isn't it? Not long ago, I was taking care of you. Oh, no, you know what? That is a Nightcrawler who says that. He says Katskin, but the word is pointing at Colossus, and it should be pointed at Nightcrawler here. Funny. Oh, no, I already saw that. So, Kurt, Fuzzy Elf, I feel so cold. And he's like, we all do. Boy, why aren't we moving? And Lalandra says, your repair saved us, but it was only a stopgap. The warp drive is now totally inert, and we've lost main and auxiliary powers. That means no life support. Unless we regenerate the matter, antimatter cores will freeze or suffocate soon. And Storm says, how do we do that? By saturating the cells with energy. And Storm says, my lightning, Cyclops, optic blast, nowhere near enough, Ororo, to do it right. What you need is the functioning equivalent of a star. And so she uses her power. Now, I think they should have called her Nova. I know they already had a Nova, but I think that would have been a more appropriate name for her than Binary. But so you can see her using her powers. And here, oh, that is a really good panel. I like it. I think it's super cool. So here, everything's back. And so she comes and she's weakened. And Wolverine's like, easy, darling. You look pretty rocky. Those looks ain't deceiving, my friend. I was wondering if my new incarnation had upper limits to its abilities. Now I know. But what a limit, says Cyclops. Everyone to bed. There is much left to do, and after a night's rest and a proper meal, we'll get to work. So here you can see she's using her powers too. They're doing repairs here. Um, she says, like a star, I can generate heat, light, radiation across the spectrum, gravity, and my perceptions. Colossus, you can't imagine how wondrous it is. And so he says, you sound very happy. So he's like, you should join the X-Men. And but it seems that that would just involve her living on Earth, and what she can do. She belongs to the stars, basically. And here's where she calls herself Binary. So all these words are basically saying, like, you know, Earth is now too small for her. Essentially, I paraphrased here. So Nightcrawler continues his function as a doctor, but she's getting better, but she's not yet recovered. So he's basically telling her, stay in bed and relax. So all right, now Lalandra and Cyclops are working together, fixing stuff here. You know, for an Empress, she's quite handy. So, so Nightcrawler asks, Cyclops, what's the status of the computers, specifically the Metascan system? And Cyclops says, the whole network has to be purged and recycled, Kurt. Nothing online. Any soon? Why? Problems? Perhaps. I've just examined Kitty. She's fully recovered. And he says, that's a problem? And she says, barely a day ago she was dying. The shrapnel tore a nasty hole in her side, introducing a radioactive element into her bloodstream. And so, from that, the warp transition, she absorbed enough hard radiation to kill a score of people. She shouldn't have survived the night, yet at the moment, she's in perfect health. He says, nothing I did healed her, but I very much would like to learn what did. So, and Wolverine says, some questions are better left unanswered, Elf. And Cyclops says, what the blazes is that supposed to mean? The kid's fine. What more do you want? The reason why, my friend, and it's because, of course, the brood egg. So Cyclops basically says, you've been lurking about like a blasted specter ever since we escaped from the brood. Maybe it's time you explained yourself. And Wolverine's like, why didn't you help me nail the queen when we had the chance? Psych, that would have been done some real damage, possibly crippled their entire race. I told you, Wolverine, the X-Men don't kill, says Cyclops. And he pops his claws here. Wanna bet, very intimidating, very hard here. And then he apologizes. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I guess all that's happened has driven me kind of buggy. You're right. What's there to get upset about? We escaped with our skins intact. Everything's hunky flamin' dory. And he walks out, and he's like, and Nightcrawler's like, my God, we are friends, he and I, Scott. Perhaps he will talk to me. And Cyclops says, stay with Lalandra, Kurt. Give her a hand. There's a pattern forming. Kitty's one piece, Logan's another, and I mean to find out what it is. So here we are with Storm. And she feels something's off with her body as well, the touch. So she knows something's up too. And she's in this room she can generate um basically her powers can not work, but it's a small area so she can use her powers in there. So and then she's like, and she holds her stomach. And she falls, and Cyclops runs to her and calls her out. And she's like, "Leave me be, Scott. I beg you. I am uninjured, and I would really rather be left alone." Cyclops is like, "Nope. Something's tearing us apart, Ororo. And if we deny its existence, if we turn away from those who want to help us, we're as good as dead here." So you can see her as crying. So basically, she says her powers are fine, but there's something wrong with her, like a connection. Basically, that's what all this is. I'm trying to hurry a little bit here because the video's already running long here. So she didn't like being in the Brood world, and she doesn't like it being just inside the building. It's metal and living plastic aesthetics. She needs life to sustain her. There's none here, not even joy or love I feel for the X-Men. And Cyclops says, "Well, what's changed?" Says, "She's changing. I have ever since our escape, deep down in the core of my being, I know neither the cause nor the final effect." And then again, she's like, "Oh." So I don't understand still why Wolverine hasn't said anything, but Cyclops is gonna call Nightcrawler to take a look, but then Storm makes the connection. Kitty's recovering her strangeness, and here, and she goes, "Could that be the answer? It's so obvious, so unthinkable. I never considered Scott. I sensed within me a child, but how can this be? I must probe deeper. And no, no." And then she screams out, "Goddess," and throws Cyclops out and closes the hatch and takes off in this like escape pod. And Cyclops goes Ororo and then calls her out, "Storm." So we are down to the last 2 pages. I apologize. This has been longer than normal. Chris Claremont just so many words. So um Cyclops goes, "She went berserk, took the scout ship, blasted out, but why'd she leave her costume behind? Carol, bring her back. We have no operational sensors. Once she's out of sight in this cloud, we'll never find her." And Wolverine says, "You ever figure that might be what she wants?" And Cyclops says, "She's irrational." And Wolverine says, "With good reason, bub." "Like what?" "I'm in no mood for games, pal. Your explanation is long overdue," says Cyclops, pointing at Wolverine. And Wolverine finally says, "Yeah, I guess it is. I should have told you on Slee's world or after we cut loose into space. I tried a few times, but I couldn't. It hurts too much. I thought of killing you. I couldn't do that either. I figured there was hope. There was somewhere. There's always hope. We'd somehow get a lucky run into a miracle. Um, who knows? I could be right, but I couldn't count on it. When the Sleezoids captured us, we were taken before their queen. They called her the Great Mother, and she implanted an egg on each of us." And suddenly, Colossus sees that. "Each egg contains an embryonic queen. It's bonded itself to your nervous system, so it can't be surgically removed. When it hatches, a physical metamorphosis occurs." And you can see Kitty crying and Nightcrawler covering his eyes. "The host body is reshaped into the birth form of the young Sleazoid in the process. It absorbs the genetic potential and abilities of the host to pass on to its progeny." And you can see the anger in Carol's face. "In my case, they reckoned without my mutant power, the healing factor. My body treated the egg as an invading disease organism and went after it whole hog. That fight, Flamin, nearly killed me, but was partly why I couldn't tell you the truth. I felt guilty, a little ashamed, because I was free. I would live, and you wouldn't. The Embryo Queen possesses a degree of awareness. They know when they're threatened, and they'll make sure take any steps to ensure their survival. In Kitty's case, that meant curing her. A dead host is no use to them. They can just they can but they can just as easily be nasty. Nasty, Logan, they don't know the meaning of the word. By all that I hold holy, says Binary, they're going to learn. So, um, and off she goes, opening the exploding the ship, causing a decompression. So, Cyclops says explosive decompression. We're being sucked out into space, and we finally achieve the end. Next issue, Transfigurations. Paul Smith will now be the new penciler of the X-Men. What do you think of Dave Cockrum's second run? I know I was a little critical. I said my piece on it, but what do you guys think? So, like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening, and sorry this video was so long. Goodbye.